Well, a lot has happened. Well, I don't know about a lot, but some certain annoyances have happened. Um, One of them is that my phone crapped out suddenly, and so I had to get a new one, and that's the one you're seeing me take this video from. I don't know if anybody really cares about that, but that did happen. But the more interesting thing that's happened in my neck of the woods in the last week is I have been without power, and I'm not the only one. Thousands of citizens of the city that I live in, Savannah, Georgia, have been without power for the last week, and power has slowly been restored to the city, and this all happened, of course, after Hurricane Helene blew by here. Now, there was no major damage to this area. There were some branches that fell. There were some, there was debris. There were a few trees that fell, and some, houses sustained damage, but everything pretty much looks the way that it looked before. Now that they've cleared away most of the debris, which is mostly, branches and pine straw and stuff. And there wasn't really that much flooding. There was a lot of rain during the day on Thursday, and then on Thursday night, it was the winds came. We could hear the wind whipping around all night. It was pretty spooky. But Friday morning, we were without power, and that's continued. And initially, they said that we would have our power back by Monday, or actually by Tuesday. That is 2 days ago. But then they said, "Oh, psych! Actually, we're going to have your power back on Friday, October the 4th, which is tomorrow." We'll see whether that still happens. As of now, my neighborhood is still without power, and we're not the only ones. But things have slowly improved in the area. Until yesterday, there were still a bunch of traffic lights that were out, and like major traffic lights. And that's a scary thing to come up to, a stoplight where it's not even blinking, it's not even flashing, it's just nothing. They're just blank. And so if you've got a 6-lane road, 3 lanes coming one way, 3 lanes coming the other way, intersecting with a 4-lane road, it's supposed to just be a 4-way stop, but it's sort of like, it's sort of an every man for himself kind of thing. It's sort of like you just play it by ear and say, oh, here's my chance to go. Ooh, I guess I better not go because that person's going. Which is pretty nerve-wracking. It's also amazing just how many businesses around here had to essentially close down because they lost power. Now, this is Savannah, Georgia. You're not hearing about, extensive hurricane damage in Savannah, Georgia. Yet we were hit hard enough that again, we've been without power we'll be without power for at least a week, or it's been a week basically now. And if they do restore our power tomorrow, it'll be a week and a day. So all of this sort of coalesces in my mind as I've looked at other things that have been talked about, and other damage that's been done to communities around here that got hit much harder, and how this storm actually went up into the Appalachians and wreaked havoc, and there was massive flooding, and it was, it's being talked about now as like the one of the worst hurricanes ever to hit this area. There was really no talk about that. There was anticipation of, oh, it's coming this way, and initially it seemed like it was headed more for Atlanta, and it was going to miss us, but then it took a right turn, it took a seaward turn and came down to the coast, and then came up the coast where we were, and then wound its way up through the Carolinas and southern Virginia. Now, I remember living in a time when hurricanes were not political, but now, of course, like everything else, they're political. And one wonders, if the people in charge give a shit about these poor white people that they hate more than they hate death. If they care about their suffering, the same way that when the opioid crisis hit Appalachia, that it was probably like these people smiling about, oh, good, poor white people dying in the streets. That's just what we love to see. And what kind of federal aid has been offered to, not to us, because I don't know if we really needed, our situation wasn't really that bad. Although being without power is no fun, especially when it's still hot. It's end of September, beginning of October here in Savannah. Today it's a little cooler. It's only 86 degrees right now. Actually felt more like fall this morning, but it's basically been summer type conditions. It's been hot, so you're lying around in the heat. What do? Do you open one of your doors, even though you don't have a screen, and perhaps invite in some wildlife just for some relief? Last night I had the treat of taking a shower in the dark. Anyone ever done that? You have not lived until you've taken a shower with no light anywhere around you. That's beyond Hitchcockian. But I survived. No one broke in and stabbed me. Although, if they had, they easily could have. That would have been pretty vulnerable at that moment, but didn't happen. But yeah, so why is there so little federal response? The people in Washington just shrugging their shoulders, not making this into a partisan thing. I don't like to do that, but just in general, people up in Washington, I just don't think they give a shit about poor whites in Appalachia. I just don't. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but I think they want a lot of us dead, and they don't give a shit. And I don't know whether I think this storm was geoengineered, but it could have been. And that's an idea that I would have just laughed off as crazy, and I would have just dismissed it out of hand just a short time ago. I don't know that that's so implausible anymore. So my point here in this video is just to say that in having been touched just a little bit by this massive and destructive storm, this hurricane, just being on the outer edges of the damage, but still seeing things absolutely go to shit, even in my own town, to such a degree that, look, there's still this area here, just to show y'all. They've still got this area here in this parking lot roped off, tree damage. So there's still remnants of it. And this is a week later. And losing power for a week, that's just I'm not going to say unconscionable. There are worse things, and maybe it's true that the power companies are doing all that they can to help us out. But I don't know. It just seems like... Anyway, what am I trying to say through all of this? I guess I'm trying to say this storm, it just managed to elevate everything that's already out there in the public mood all of the, call it paranoia, if you will. I think it's a reasonable mistrust um, of the authorities. And they're sending. Of course, it's been said billions of times already, but it's worth saying again and again and again. They're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, billions of dollars to Israel. What are they giving to poor people? Forget whether they're white or not. Doesn't even matter. What are they doing to help people who have been hit by this massive storm? Have they even talked about it? Do they even care? Are they even trying to look like they care? It doesn't seem to me like they are. And everything goes in cycles, doesn't it? Because I'm remembering 2005, Hurricane Katrina. Kanye West, George Bush doesn't care about black people. Back then, it was sort of the she was on the other foot, partisanly speaking, and it was like Bush and the Republicans who were screwing up the rescue efforts. People were saying, I don't know if it's that much different though. Two sides of the same coin. And of course, I don't want to make too much out of idiots on TikTok coming on and saying, "Ha, those redneck Trump voters got hit by a hurricane. I hope they all die." I don't want to make too much of that because there's always people out there who say those kinds of things just to, I don't know, to vent their spleen because they're miserable people. But it seems to me like that kind of sentiment towards fellow human beings has been amplified. I don't think anyone would argue that it hasn't been amplified over the last few years. And the people that could do something about it, the people that could, who have the power, who have the juice to throw some water over that fire, they're throwing gasoline on it instead. And it's not heading in a good direction. I'm just going to say that. It's not heading in a good direction. We're headed for a train wreck. And, I'm not an alarmist. I don't like to get on and say alarmist stuff, but there are bad vibes in the air. That's all I will say about this particular matter. Just some reflections over the last week, from what I have lived and what I've observed over the past week. That's all. Thanks for watching.